Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Hear, hear. Parkinson's Podcast. Welcome to the Hear, Hear Parkinson's Podcast, where you will hear from special guests covering the world of Parkinson's with a deep dive on the World Parkinson Congress and a look at how the WPC has helped make extraordinary progress in the Parkinson's community by creating space for people with Parkinson's to have a seat at the table.
Hello everybody. I have the privilege of talking to Professor John Cryan, who is Chair of the Department of Anatomy and Neuroscience at University College Cork, UCC, and he is also the Vice President of Research and Innovation since 2021 and the Principal Investigator in the APC Microbiome Institute. John has done many things in his career. He is co-author of the bestselling book, The Psychobiotic Revolution, talking about mood, food, and the new science of the gut-brain connection. And not only an author, but a film star too. He is the lead in the Netflix Hack Your Health series, The Secret of the Gut. And believe it or not, I've seen John walking inside someone's intestines. Now there's a thought. And thank you very much, and I'd like to introduce you now to Professor John Cryan. So John, as I said, you're Vice President of Research and Innovation since 2021. What made you go into research? What was your thinking behind going into research, John?
Well, hi Tony, and really great to talk to you today. And yeah, that's a great question, I guess. I've always been curious. I guess curiosity has been the driver since, I was a kid, and my mum got these encyclopedia books, and we used to just, go through them, and that was really the start of kind of trying to see the world through a different lens and different ways. And I guess it's the curiosity that keeps me still very much in research.
Yeah, it's because it's something that it's not a field that people would automatically think of going into.
Sure. From a career perspective, perhaps, but we all research every day. Every person is doing their own research, whether they take in new food or listen to a new podcast or whatever. They're researching, they're getting information, they're curating it, they're putting it together, they're assessing its utility to them and to others, and then they're telling other people about it. So perhaps, it's not that strange. But from a career perspective, yes, it can be somewhat seen as almost elitist, something that only people in universities do. And that's why I'm so admiring what you do and people like you with lived experience, because you actually help to democratize research and help, tell people that we can, as a person living with Parkinson's or living with any form of illness, that you can actually help the research agenda.
Yes, well, what happens when you get to someone like yourself. Now, I was in Barcelona, World Parkinson's Conference 2023, and I know you weren't there, but your name was mentioned constantly. And when, as a person from Cork, when they knew that, they said, "Oh, and UCC?" I said, "Yes, University College Cork." And do you know John Cryan? Do you know the work he's doing? And the reason I'm mentioning that is that you have been the co-author of a book which is well known in the field. And if you could just tell me about how you collaborated with that.
Yeah, so we wrote a book some years ago now. I wish it was all out of date, but it's not, actually, because it was very forward thinking. It was called The Psychobiotic Revolution.
I'm glad you said that.
Mood, food, and the new science of the gut-brain axis. And really what we wanted to do in that book, and it was a collaborative book with my clinical colleague, Ted Dinan, who's now retired, and a science journalist from the US to help us translate it to a lay American audience and a lay audience in general. And in that book, we describe the different ways that the gut, and in particular the microbes within the gut, can communicate to the brain across the lifespan and influence different aspects of brain and behaviour. And that's building on some of the fundamental discoveries that we've made here in Cork in UCC. I'm sad to say I'm almost 2 decades, 20 years in UCC now. So since I arrived here, we started working on the microbiome because that's what colleagues here were doing. And some of the key findings that we've made, very basic science findings, are now beginning to slowly be appreciated at the clinical and human level. And we're beginning to move, probably not as fast as I'd like, but nor as fast as any patient would like. But we're beginning to understand more and more about how gut feelings really happen.
Yes, and as a person who's read the book, I mean, my goodness, I was burning pages. And then not only that, but we've got John Cryan, the film star. So you did a series. You did a film with Netflix in one of their health documentaries, and that was called The Gut.
Hack Your Health.
Hack Your Health, yes. It was about the gut. Yes. So how did you get into doing the film? How did they approach you? Did you approach them?
Yeah, they approached me. They were trying to understand that there was this new science of microbiome science and also appreciating, and I'd been earlier in a documentary for the French-German TV series Arte, which was about how diet affects your brain, and I'd done a TED Med talk and a TEDx talk, so I'd been well known in the field, and so they contacted me when they were scoping out this documentary early on, and it was really great. It was really interesting to have that level of production values, because I thought they did a great job with some of the animations and some of this, the way they explained some complex concepts very jovially but entertaining but educational at the same point. And the reach of a Netflix documentary is huge, and it was number one in 13 countries in the first week, in top 10 in 70 something countries. Yes. I mean, it's seen by millions of people. So that, for our research here in UCC, which Cork is a small, I know we like to but it's the second city in a small island off the coast of Europe. To get that level of visibility is really great to see, and it helps for us to translate the work we're doing and to encourage other people that to understand that where we are and where we need to go. Hack Your Health. The secrets of the gut. I mean,
it was absolutely fascinating to see you walking through someone's intestines, busy and watching these things floating by you. It was very, very well put together, very creative and everything. And I have to say, I understood a huge amount about the gut microbiome after that. So on this line, you are now the APC Microbiome. Mm-hmm. And you are, your role there is...
So I'm a PI, Principal Investigator in APC Microbiome Ireland, which is our flagship university centre focused on microbiome science. It's part of our new UCC Futures Food, Microbiome and Health. And it's... for over 23 years, the centre has really been leading the way globally, trying to understand in a collective, if you bring together clinicians, basic scientists, neuroscientists, pharmacologists, biochemists, microbiologists, computer scientists, psychologists, all together to study how microbes can have a benefit for both human and planetary health, and put them all together and let them, play, I guess. What can we come up with? And so for me, it's been a really catalyst for doing interdisciplinary, collaborative and engaged research in ways that we really didn't think of. And so now when we were recruiting into UCC, one of the things that I'm really trying to encourage and nudge is that when we're recruiting new faculty, they should fit into some of our UCC Futures areas, whether it's in food microbiome and health, or from a Parkinson's perspective in future aging and brain science, which is the futures that's led up by my colleague, Dr. Aideen Sullivan.
Yes. Actually, one of the great things is that not many of you listeners will know this, but University College Cork has got the Parkinson's disease research cluster, and they have been doing some great work. And I know you're not directly involved in that line, but you mentioned Aideen Sullivan there, who I know very well. And the work, if you can just give an overview of what they have been doing, that'd be great.
So Aideen Sullivan and Professor Aideen Sullivan, Professor Gerard Keefe, Professor Suzanne Timmins, Professor Yvonne Nolan, many others for many years have been trying to understand the neurobiology of susceptibility of dopaminergic neurons in Parkinson's disease, and using stem cell and various other approaches to try and bridge recovery. And then they also go out and look at this within a patient perspective and trying to understand where that's going. Where we dovetail with it has been somewhat looking at gut-brain signaling, and there's been some work been going on there, because in the Parkinson's field, as you and most of your listeners will know, is that there's a greater appreciation of a body first or brain first dichotomy in Parkinson's. And so with my colleagues there, we've been looking over the years to how the gut can influence degenerative processes in the brain. I'm much more in the mechanistic basic science of it, but I'm waiting for other people to apply what I find to their own disease, their own favorite area, and whatever else. And so we have a new colleague here recruited into the physiology department, Dr. Colin McNamara, who comes from Oxford, and he and I have just written a short piece for the Lancet Neurology on the role of the microbiome in Parkinson's disease, and how that can play a role. And what we know and what we need to know, and particularly it was in response to a new article in relation to immune function, and I think everything kind of comes back to your immune system in some way, and the microbiome is shaping your immune system is shaping your nervous system, and how they can go into dysregulation seems to me to be fundamental to aspects of Parkinson's etiology overall. The other way, which we're not working on here so much, but it's one that I'm watching, is that we are working a lot on the microbiome in the gut and how it interacts with various drugs and medications. My own interests have been mainly on medications in psychiatry, so antipsychotics and antidepressants, but others in the area of pesticides and the impact that other foreign chemicals. We're now interested in forever chemicals and their impact on the microbiome. So we're doing a lot of work there. But then clinically, a lot of people are now working on cancer therapies and showing that the efficacy of certain cancer therapies depends on your microbiome. So, but where there's a lot of really exciting effort, and I'm kind of watching this from afar, but I'm intrigued by it, is in the area of L-DOPA microbiome interactions, because as we know, L-DOPA is broken down in the periphery, and that you take carbidopa with it to try and prevent that. But there still is some metabolism. Carbidopa doesn't affect microbial metabolism, and there still is microbial breakdown of L-DOPA occurring in the periphery, and so that's really interesting, and I think something that you might see in the future that not that you need a third drug, but you might need something to stop that microbial breakdown as well. So that might actually bolster central levels of L-DOPA and prolong efficacy of L-DOPA, and so that's quite an exciting area as well.
I absolutely think that's very good and very true. But the other thing that I am very intrigued with is that the amount of patient-led work that UCC is involved with, and I actually think it's quite different, and I've been involved with a lot of that. And again, as a university, you seem to be endorsing and holding this very close to yourself.
Well, it's definitely, I would say, it's something that we have to really understand, that if you're not doing research with stakeholders, then are you really doing it for them? Yeah. And we have we have to engage, and engaged research is very much the way we see it. So people talk a lot about PPI, patient public interactions, but for me it's more about the engagement and co-creation. Yeah. And I think in Ireland in general we are getting better and better at co-creation, and I think that's something that we want to do, and we need to listen to the patient voice, because maybe we have to take it on board. Yeah. Not that it's going to drive everything, so we can think that the patient knows everything. They know everything about them as an individual, but they may not know all as a collective, and it's about bringing the collective voice that's really important to inform. Yeah. And sometimes it just takes innovators. I was struck, and I'm really passionate about this, because we have to move beyond tokenism in this. Yes. But I was struck by recently someone said this, brought to my attention a quote that's given to thought to be said by Henry Ford, which is, if I asked people what they wanted, they would say they wanted a faster horse. And I thought that was kind of, while engaged research and is so important, and we need to make sure that voice is there, but sometimes we also need an innovative approach to actually take to the people and say, well, what about the motor car? Would that be a better way of getting from A to B?
Yes. No, absolutely brilliant. So I have this thing. We really are. We're barreling down towards the end of the first quarter of the 21st century. So as 2025, we say goodbye to it. How do you think we have developed in the first quarter from where we were to where we are now? How do you think we have moved in the way of science research in Parkinson's?
I think it's been really interesting. Have we new medications for Parkinson's that are helping? Probably not as good as we would have hoped 25 years ago. Have we seen the promise of stem cells and deep brain stimulation take off to where we wanted it to be? Probably not. Have we seen equity come into Parkinson's? Have we seen understanding? No. So there's lots to be negative about. But at the same time, I've seen a complete transformation about our appreciation of body-brain interactions across all of neurology and psychiatry. We now are disrupting our way of even thinking about the body and how we teach. And I'm the chair of anatomy, so how we teach basic anatomy in systems. We compartmentalize the body historically. So you go to a neurologist if you have something wrong with your dopamine neurons, but maybe it's a gastroenterologist or an immunologist, or you might need input from a microbiologist to be able to understand this really what's going on. And so we're working towards much more multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary points of view. I think we're moving really great in getting the patient voice listened to. I think that's been transformative over the last 25 years. And that's helping a lot in trying to understand and develop systems and healthcare systems in particular that are going to understand that. We're understanding that Parkinson's is very much while it's a disease that people live with, but they can live well and live long and live with the proper supports. So we're much more optimistic than we probably were 25 years ago over there overall. We're really understanding sleep, Parkinson's interactions. We're understanding gut Parkinson's interactions. We're understanding immune Parkinson's interactions in a way that we didn't 25 years ago. Yeah. And I think that's all positive and optimistic.
And I'm absolutely in agreement with you. And on a personal note, I'm very aware that we had Parkinson's and epilepsy and MS. And as you said a minute ago, that people compartmentalised these things. But I see a growing together of MS and Parkinson's and that, because we're in the neurological aspect.
Yeah.
It's there. And I think we're actually developing more by working together. It's an amazing combination, you know. I've seen it in other research papers, and I think that has been one of the things you've mentioned, that we are coming forward in that respect. So, John, I'm very grateful for your time, because I know you are in demand everywhere. You're all over. So, on a lighter note, how does Professor Cryan relax?
Relax? Do I ever really relax? Well, I can tell you, before this, I had to give a speech about Irish-Denmark research interactions, and there I had to hone my Seamus Heaney's Danish Tollenman, and the works of Heaney always helps me to relax.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I was opening an event related to different publications in the collective social futures, and for that I was able to take a riff off a movie that I watched this weekend, which I think is relevant to the Parkinson's community too. Mm-hmm. It's a movie that's called Train Dreams. It's based on the Dennis Johnson novella. It's just arrived on Netflix, and highly recommended. It is slow, it's meditative. It is about one man navigating a very changing world. That world was over 100 years ago in the Pacific Northwest of America, but the implications for today are just so real, because there's tragedy, there's hope, and the movie is just so beautifully shot, with an amazing score from Bryce Desner, and it ends with a Nick Cave song, so what more do you need?
Yeah.
So that helped me relax this weekend. No, I'm a movie buff, as you can gather. I love the theatre, I love the literature. I immerse myself in the arts, and I think that's one of the things we need to understand in interdisciplinary worlds, that we navigate, that we can learn a lot from the arts, because medicine can teach you about the mechanics and the biology of what it means to be ill, but only I think the humanities can actually express that in a way that we need to, and we need to listen to. So I encourage all of my trainees to go beyond there, and also it helps when you have to give speeches or talks as well, overall on that. It's important to relax. Although being an information junkie like I am, I do find that I'm finding out all about new discoveries in science and medicine is something that I also find very relaxing, because it allows me to see, okay, there's much more to be discovered.
Yes.
And as a neuroscientist, I remind people that my job will never be complete.
Yes.
We are only scratching the surface, and understanding about our brain and how it navigates the world and how it talks to the body is so important.
And I know you're a family man, and you're away from home a lot and everything, which can be quite tough, etc. And just on that thing of relaxing, my wife said to me one day, "Oh, you're relaxing, you're reading." It was actually one of your papers I was going through. So, touche on.
As long as I didn't put you too much to sleep, Tony. Now.
So, John, describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh, that's a tough one, Tony. Describe myself in 3 words.
Yeah, and I'll be
Yeah, I guess I still am curious. I am optimistic, and I guess I'm hardworking.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, hardworking. Yeah, I can have that as one word, but no, that's a brilliant way of summing up, because I know that apart from your study side of it, you mentor quite a bit. Yes. And I know the students hold you in very high regard in that area. And if you go back to when you were a student, what would you actually say to yourself now, knowing what you do now?
Oh, that's a great question. I guess as an undergraduate, I think I didn't understand what the professors did. I didn't really appreciate the world of research so much. But as a PhD student, I would have, I was so, because this was in Ireland without funding. This was, a long time ago. Yeah. And we just were given ideas and told to explore ideas, and you did it with the tools you had. And I would look to me then and say, wow, if you have all of these new tools, and we talk about it from a brain science perspective, we have ways of now imaging the brain, of seeing into the brain and doing things with the brain that we never would have had back then. So I would have, to myself back there, just say that while the infrastructure and the techniques will get better, your curiosity and your work ethic will drive you, and yes. I think it's understanding that. When I did my training, I never felt that I would still be in Ireland, because we just didn't have a culture at the time of funding. And now my trainees here come from all over the world to be here. We have the most multinational lab in UCC, and it's just amazing and to watch. And many of them will return, and some of them will stay here. Yeah. And it's about creating an environment of where people feel valued.
Well, that's something that for the years that I have been unknown this campus, I know that many people get very fond of UCC, and there is a switch somewhere, a magnet that draws people back.
Do you think it's UCC or Cork, Tony? I mean, yes. As someone like yourself who's been drawn into Cork, what do you think? It's the same magnetism. It's probably not just the campus, but it's also, I think it's Cork.
I think Cork is a truly amazing area, and I came from London to Cork. And many of my friends and that said, oh, you'll never settle here. But I have loved every minute of being here. The beauty, the learning that actually goes on, the people themselves,
There's an optimism here, yes. Tony. People are optimistic in Ireland and in Cork in particular, despite everything that's going on in the world. And I think the university helps with that, because we have that discourse, university, it's very much a university city, and we're able to build, and I know when you came here there wasn't as much connectivity with the community and clinical from a patient perspective, but I think you can build these things in Cork quicker than you can other places, because of that optimistic can-do and community approach to where we're going.
Very, very much so. Here you are, you're saying that you're this curious person, which I think is fantastic. That's a great way of describing yourself and everything. But, and I asked you about how you relax now. Now, do you have a guilty pleasure that you're willing to just let people know about?
Guilty pleasure. Let me think. Do I have a guilty pleasure? Well, I have a real horrible liking for these jelly sweets that I shouldn't be eating, and so my kids know when they go to the shop that they have to do it. I guess musical theatre is kind of a guilty pleasure. I enjoy going to the West End when I can, and I like all types of theatre, but I guess musical theatre is I've seen Hamilton a few times, and I've been to Ibiza this summer with Rachel Ziegler, and I guess that's a guilty. Yeah, that's probably something I can own up to.
Yeah, that's a fair one, and it's you're the head of research. You're this, but there is another side and another life to you, and I think that these little things are actually help people get to understand a lot more. I've known you as a friend for a few years now, and I've seen the lighter side of you, and I've sat with my jaw on the floor while you were talking, because that's just the way that you engage with people, John. It's wonderful. So with all this in mind, I've found somebody. We're coming up to Christmas, so Father Christmas has just been round, and he's just dropped a lump of funding. So what would you like to take with that gift of funding? Which direction do you want to go now?
And I think this is more from what I feel my field needs right now is large-scale studies of everyday people assessing their microbiome and their brain health longitudinally.
Yeah.
So the Irish microbiome study. Look at this, he's been very generous for the Christmas now. So but looking for a large amount of people, large enough that you can then track those that get Parkinson's disease, or those that develop dementia, or those that develop stress-related psychiatric problems. Can we look at where they were, or what were the antecedents of that? I'm quite interested in transitions. So maybe because my own kids are coming to adolescence, so adolescence, that transition there, but also maybe because I'm also now even passing it, middle age transition. But what is happening to our brain and our body as they communicate with each other? Yeah. And can we do a study, large scale, and look at this and look at this, from the exposome perspective, from the diet perspective, from just everything, and so that's what I would wish a very generous Father Christmas, because I think that's where the field needs.
Yes.
There's been, more recently there's been criticism, including from colleagues here in Cork, of some of the areas of microbiome research, particularly related to autism, because some of the early studies were very small. The results were probably overhyped. The intervention studies are small. Animal studies are always, I would say, open to criticism, because can you ever have a autistic mouse or a Parkinsonian mouse or something so complex? So you can, I can sit here on this armchair and retire, which I retire and criticize everyone else's work. But that's not me, and that's not curious me, Tony. I actually want to go and do the studies, get the funding, and be able to do more large-scale effects. Yeah. And that's something we're really excited about in APC, and we have, we're putting out feelers for people to help us go on that journey. And I think collectively we'll do this at a global level, because I think other people now know what is the relative contribution. Yes, and of course when we're all writing our grants, we all say we're going to cure Parkinson's disease or cure depression or cure Alzheimer's. That's because you need to say this to get the funding. But we all know in our heart, no, that's not what we're going to do. We're actually going to add a piece to this puzzle that might lead us and other people to innovate, to develop new treatment strategies for these disorders in some way that might help patient X, but may not help patient Y. But why might it help patient X? And that's kind of where I think we need to get to. So it's a long answer to a very simple question, but more human longitudinal data with good brain and good microbiome analysis.
Yeah, and just to cover that point there, I mean, I know that there was a field of research into Parkinson's that actually ended up helping people with MS.
Yes.
So, you know, again, we've got to be able to think that way. We've got to be able to allow our curiosity, as you would put it, to say, well, you know, it doesn't work here, but look at it working there.
And serendipity, I mean, like, you know, we try, and I, you know, we always say, oh, well, this is all planned, but understanding the role that serendipity has played in drug discovery up to now, put our hands up and acknowledging that, and then understanding that we have to be, you know, who would have thought that a peptide from a lizard could have been lead to a blockbusting drugs for weight loss? Absolutely. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so people were interested in why lizards hibernate, and that has led to the whole Ozempic generation that we have. So I'm kind of, I get irritated by people's lack of curiosity, I guess, and ability to understand this.
Yeah. So John, let's hope that this Christmas the man from the North Pole is very generous. I really do. So, can you tell me, how do you think that the microbiome can help with Parkinson's in the coming decade?
Oh, that's a great question, Tony, and it's one I consider a lot. I think we're just beginning to really understand this. I mentioned earlier about the relationship between L-DOPA and the microbiome, and I think that's going to be really clear, that we might actually get a co-adjunct treatment that might give us better blood and brain levels of L-DOPA. That would be really, really great if that transmits to the right way. Second way is we're going to see, and I sit on the advisory panel for two of these large ventures, one in Canada and one out of the US, where large-scale studies are now being done in Parkinson's, and that these may actually lead to better understanding of why there might be different patient responses, and also understanding could we treat using diet as an approach. And what is in the diet? Because like our microbiome is like a factory.
Yeah.
It produces all kinds of weird and wonderful chemicals, many of which our bodies can't make at all. Among these are things like short chain fatty acids, like butyrate and acetate and propionate. Now, short chain fatty, these are basically, factories depend on two things. One is the quality of the workers and the quality of the raw materials. Yeah. So the same as with our microbial factory. The workers are the bacteria, and the raw materials come from the diet.
Yes.
So if you take enough fibre in your diet, it's broken down into short-chain fatty acids, and they're not there. These bacteria, some of them are not there. Now, there were some early studies which said too much of these was present in Parkinson's, but it's not clear now whether that was measured way too late, and that it's just the body trying to recover a lot from a loss earlier on. So we're trying to understand, could a diet that would be giving you more short-chain fatty acids produced, so a fibre-filled diet, could that have benefit in Parkinson's?
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, and if not, why not? And understand that. And could we design precision probiotics that might actually target what you need and do that? And I think that's where some of the field will go as well. The inflammation that we know that drives, especially the neuroinflammation that's driving Parkinsonian degeneration, could we use the microbiome as a way of dampening that down? And could we look at things like how that synergizes with things like exercise collectively as a lifestyle approach, so overall to have less neuroinflammation overall. And then finally, you know, there's one part of the microbiome story that always intrigues me, and it is linked to Parkinson's, is that we know that the engines of every cell in our body, which are our mitochondria, We know that that's what a lot of the cellular factors that go wrong in Parkinson's, basically even breakdown of energy metabolism in a cell because these mitochondria don't work. But what people forget to remember is that mitochondria are just microbes that got engulfed by the cell and retain many of these signals. So how do these signals communicate with their old ancestral microbes? And it's going to be a really important area for looking at things like mitophagy and oxidative stress and things that are really exciting in the Parkinson's field right now. I think we're going to see, the microbiome isn't going to be the answer to everything, but I think it could offer new insights into both preventative as well as therapeutic approaches for managing some of the core symptoms in Parkinson's. And the final part is then we're interested in circadian rhythms in the microbiome. We've done a lot of work on that, and we know that REM sleep disruption is often linked, and so that relationship could we rewire our circadian system through the microbiome.
Oh, I'd love that to happen, very much. John, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has. And here I am interviewing you, but I am still in awe of everything that you have to say.
Well, thank you, Tony, but I'm also in awe of you and all of you do, and I think keep doing it and keep pushing, because we need people to remember that the patient voice is so important in all of this.
Thank you very much. John Cryan, Professor at UCC. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Cheers.
Thank you for joining the Here Parkinson's Podcast. If you would like to experience the next World Parkinson Congress for yourself, to feel and see the change in real time, save the date to join us from May 24th to the 27th, 2026 in Phoenix, Arizona. Learn more at wpc2026.org. This podcast series is made possible with support from Blue Rock Therapeutics.